basically, before I get started, maybe we should like also do a little bit of intro for speakers.
All the speakers are there, so maybe
That's true. That's
for the
okay.
speeches you think for the leader.
Right. Actually, like before I even start, I want to know like which grade you guys are. So, who are in grade 9, 10, like 9, class 9? Oh, SSC this one? Class 10. Okay. Yeah. So okay, it's class 10. So I guess you guys are class 10. If you're SSC, then it's class 10. Let's see. Class 8. Okay. I guess like 9 or below, I should say. Anyway, so 10, 11, 12. Which class are you?
I'm given SSC.
Huh?
This year, SSC.
SSC. What about you?
AS.
AS. Okay. So, and then, well, I mean, by that, I meant equivalent grade. That's what I meant by that. So, 12 and up, I guess, like, up, like university or gap year. Okay, got it.
Gap year.
Yeah, mine's up too. All right, great. Okay, so that's good. So it's like a pretty good mix. So for what I see is like a pretty large group is like class 11. So it's like a pretty good time to think about it. It's definitely not too early, I would say. So and the people who are doing it early, like you're doing like a great thing that you were thinking about it earlier, because I do think that if you want to go from US, especially from like a country like Bangladesh, well, not like country like Bangladesh, more like from any international background, you need to plan a lot more than like someone obviously who is applying for say like Canada or like US, right? So I'm glad that you guys are doing it. So my talk will be kind of like a quick TED talk, kind of the overview of the process, and then we'll have Labib and other people who will talk about more specifics. Okay, but at the same time, you guys can ask me questions about any of the steps, right? You guys can come in if you want. So yeah, so let's talk about various steps, right? So obviously the application process starts way before you submit the application. So generally the application deadline would be like December or January of like if you're applying for say like a fall of 2020, right now. So then your application deadline would be like sometime in January 2020 or like end of 2019, right? Generally it's like December 2019, right? Sometime like that for fall application. So there's the deadline thing. So basically that is like the time you submit your application, but a lot goes before that, right? So you need to basically have a profile, you need to have like all your tests. So by tests I mean you need SSC or HSC by if you're Bangla medium. If you're English medium, you need A-level, O-level, all those things done. Well, you don't need actually, you technically you don't need the HSC done or like the A-level done, but you can apply before your results is out, whatever. But when you're going to university, I guess, ideally in most cases they want to like have that degree, or that you can finish high school. So it can get a little tricky for the timeline for Bangla medium, but for English medium, obviously the timeline is that, maybe you're graduating from high school, like you're finishing your A-level in, say like early 2020, right? So you basically apply for fall of 2020. So that's kind of the first decision you need to make when you're going to apply. So now you're like, I'm going to apply, yay, great, but you need to figure out what processes are there, right? So obviously, in addition to your school things, right? Like I said, like A-level, O-level, all those academics, you need to take some standardized tests. So as you guys probably already know here, there are a couple of standardized tests. You need to take SAT, which was previously known as SAT 1, and then you need to take SAT need to take SAT subject test, which previously was known as SAT 2, right? And then there's it depends on the university. So you might need to take TOEFL, which is basically the language test. So basically tells you, how good are you in language. SAT claims that it's way more than that. It's it has maths and everything. So yeah. So those are the extra tests you need to take. And that generally, I would say ideally take it way before your deadline. So if your deadline is say like December 2019, I would say make sure you finish your test before say like September or something. Another reason I say that you should do it is because so life often doesn't go as planned, right? So imagine you took a test, you didn't do very well. Then you're like, oh, maybe if I studied hard for like a month, I could improve my score a lot. Which often generally doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. So like, you never know unless you try. So make sure you have like at least one test like slots left before you have the deadline. So if you do it in September, then you can obviously take tests in October or November even and improve your score, right? So that's why it's kind of important. And then I'm kind of going like backward from the deadline. So before that, obviously what you need are extracurriculars. So like we have other people who will talk about that. But basically what US universities want to see is like you have a story, right? So I think that is actually one singular thing that sets US admission apart from say any other countries. For example, if you apply for Singapore, right? You need a sort of essay, like if you have like in the US, but mostly it's dependent on your grades, your SAT score, and everything. So it's almost automatic, right? Almost like Bangladesh. Bangladesh, I mean, if you go to a Bangladeshi university, say Kuwait, you take like an admission test, right? And they don't want to know like if you dance well, if you sing well. I mean, if you dance well or sing well, or you like get like a gold medal like these guys in Math Olympiad, they don't care about it. They're like, oh, if you got that test score, you're ranked by this, and they'll take you. It's like a black and white decision. But US admission is not a black and white decision. It's what they call a holistic process. So I'll explain a little more what holistic process means in a bit. But basically what it means is that you as a human is like more than your scores, right? You as a human has like values that might go way beyond your scores. You might be a kid from like a slum in Dhaka or like a slum in Africa, right? And you didn't get the opportunities, say like a very rich person's kid got, right? So in your essays, you can write your life story. Well, again, don't write a sob, like a very sad story. Like obviously mention how you had like obstacles in your life and you overcame them, right? So I think that is what universities want to say, that you had big challenges in your life. It could be you didn't have good financial background, but you overcome that by like working, right? That could be even like a good story to tell, and things like that. So basically there is that. So you need a profile. So what is a profile? The profile is basically a collection of your stories and your achievements outside of, well, I guess I should say in your school too, but kind of a lot about outside the school. Like what have you done for the society? How did you impacted your environment that you were in? Are you the kind of person who is very entrepreneurial? Like do you take initiatives to change your society? It could be as simple as like going to a slum close to your house and teaching like math to like, or well, not necessarily math, teaching like anything, science to say like 5 underprivileged kids, right? That because they want to see that you take various initiatives to improve the society, right? And now I'm kind of like going back, and now even going way back to that, like that is the profile part. Even going way before that is your choice of which universities you want to apply to, right? Like if I want to, if I probably like randomly ask, this group might be different, but if I ask like a random group, like, oh, tell me like a name of universities that you might want to go to like in the US, right? Then people would probably like, oh, like this like blah 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 Ivy League school, this whatever school, like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, whatever that you want to that you want to go to, right? So let me take like a little bit of time, maybe a minute, to talk about that part, right? Because this is very important mindset. It's like, so we were just talking right before, it's like always need to apply to schools that will be in 3 categories. One is like rich, another is, what is that?
Reach, match, and safety.
Rich, match, and safety. Thank you. I often forget this thing. So what do those mean? Like one, rich is like, depending on our profile, rich could be the schools that you think you have like a somewhat of a shot like of getting, or you kind of think that you might not get it with very high probability, right? For example, like even for me, right, like I would say, like when I applied, I told my mom literally, I was like, why are we wasting like an application fee on Harvard? Because I'll never get into Harvard, so I'm not going to apply. My mom was like, I still remember what she said. She was like, if you get rejection letter from Harvard, I'm going to put that in my house and be like, hey, my son got rejected from Harvard, and I'm proud of it that he applied. So that was like something I was like, okay, like if you were telling me that, this is like really, really like a small like story, but it kind of shows that I was not sure at all that I'll get into that. So, but still I applied. Then you have the math school, which is depending on your profile. So imagine you have like pretty decent SAT scores, you have good like grades, you have some extracurriculars. Then you might have some schools that are maybe like US not top 20, but maybe it's like 20 to 30 ranking, right? Well, again, ranking is another thing that is, I kind of don't, okay, again, it's easy for me to say, but I don't believe in ranking that much. But again, like well, the reason I say that is that I think US education-wise, the quality of the raw education you get is pretty similar and very, very, very high quality in like top 100 universities and even beyond. Probably like top 5, like top 200 universities in the US, easily. Like whatever we studied at Harvard is probably the same, even the same textbook that we studied at our university. The difference probably was that, oh, like the person who wrote the textbook is like teaching me, like at Harvard, or like MIT if you're teaching you like a math class, right? So that is the difference. But in general, like the quality of education, I would say is like very comparable. So what makes all the difference is the network you have, the people you meet. Those are the things that make a lot of difference, and that's why like Ivy Leagues are the top 5 schools everybody wants to go. That's kind of the only thing. So my encouragement would be, like definitely shoot for the sky, like shoot for the stars, right? But the thing is, also make sure, if you especially want to go to like a good school in the US, you have some safety options. Because there are like a lot of like liberal arts schools. There are like a lot of other schools who are like maybe not in like top 50, but it's like from 50 to 100 that you can very highly likely that you will get in. And I'm sure, like if you think about it, like Bangladesh has like 150 million people, right? Like I'm sure like the people who are sitting here, like you guys are quite talented, right? Or like if you think about like if you for something like some measure, right? Like are in top 1% of Bangladesh, that means like you are in a very, very small like a talent pool, right? And being that 1% is actually not that hard because we have so many people, right? So I do think that like if you want to apply, you always have a good option of getting into some school. It might not be like whatever school everybody knows, but you still get like a very good world-class education. So I encourage everyone to think about that. So definitely like do that when you do your college selection, and don't go crazy. Don't apply to like 30 schools because I say, oh, you need to have 3 categories of things. So don't apply to all, like let's apply to all the Ivy Leagues 10, then let's apply to like all the mid-range 10 and 10. It will drive you crazy because I sort of did that and I know that how it feels. I planned to apply to 15 schools and then I got so overwhelmed. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to apply to 9. So still I applied to 9 schools and that was super hectic. So what I would recommend is like, well, take your chances, but do select schools wisely. Like, be a little realistic, especially when you're selecting the safety schools, right? Be realistic with that, so that like you know that you get into some school. So there is the selection process. Excuse me. Now to get back to the whole process, right? So now I kind of, so as you can kind of see, like I went back to like the deadline to all the way top. Now for the ease of following, I'll go from the top to down, which is basically, so now you have decided you want to apply to schools, maybe you're in class 11 or 10, something like that. And you sort of know which school you want to apply to, which are based on a couple of decisions, right? So it could be like you know that you have this grade and maybe you have taken like a test SAT from like one of those SAT books and you have scored, I don't know, you have scored like 600 in English, 700 in math or something. So you're like, okay, my score is kind of average, but I think I can improve it to like 100 points or something if I study hard. So then you have this like, you have this standard that you know that you are realistically. So now you can go to many websites like College Board, whatever, or like the websites of all the universities. Those are actually very helpful, right? they tell you about all the process and everything if you take time to read them, right? So basically go to those websites and then check if you match those profiles, right? That they maybe in their last class of 2018 they took this kid, their SAT average was this was this. So if you see that, oh, you're on this average range, so you know that, oh, like, maybe I can apply, maybe I'll get it. So that is how you kind of get this basic school selection process. And obviously it also depends on like what kind of extracurriculars you have. Imagine you're like, your SAT scores are maybe not in top end, but you did something like really amazing, like extracurricular wise. You have like a company that raised, I don't know, like $1 million from venture fund or something, or like you're like some genius who won some medal, or like you're like a singer who won like a national prize or something, or you're like a debater who went to like debate in like world level, right? So things like that. So or even you just like started a school and then maybe that has like 200 students, all those things. So the reason I'm mentioning is like there's like many ways to shine as like an extracurricular activity. It's not just Math Olympiad. It's not like like some like contest something. Like you can do well in many ways, right? So imagine you have that, and then you're like, okay, so maybe I am somewhat better than other people, so maybe I have higher chance, so I can take more chances with like a top rated schools, right? So this is how you select your schools. And once you have done that, then you need to take tests, right? So generally I would recommend to start the preparation for taking the test at least 1 year before you're applying, like application deadline. So which would be like, so the people who are in like 11th grade, this is the prime time. You should like prepare, take some SATs the year before you're applying, maybe one, just for trying, and then try to improve from there, right? Things like that. Then also like, I think we'll tell you more about it, but also like find like-minded people, and that is super important, right? So find your friends. I'm sure here are like some people who came like as like a couple of friends, right? So that is very good. So find your like peer group who are interested in your pursuit, right, of like going to outside, because they will keep you like accountable, and then they will also keep you motivated, right? So that's why it's so important. So find that group, study with them, prepare, and like share information, be collaborative, right, and all that, because there are like enough spots in those universities, and you can all get it, right? So that is the thing. So you do that, and also keep your grades up. If you're in like class 11 or 12, So yeah, so like just keep your grades up, do well, do your extracurricular, change the world, or take initiative to change the world, and so on. So that is how you'd go with that, go about with that. So there is that process, and then say you're like almost getting close to taking your like HSC or like your A level and stuff. So that would be the right time to kind of think about who you are. I know it's a very deep question, but you need to think about your profile. Who do you want to represent yourself as in the application, right? Like, are you like a very good athlete? Are you someone who has overcome the obstacle? Like, what are you going to write your story about? What is your story, right? So, because the university admission people, as we'll discuss, care a lot about that story. That can make or break your application. You need to show them that you are taking initiative and you're executing, right? And you're moving the needle. You're doing something in your society, right? And all those things. Or maybe you're excelling in one thing and you're like very focused. Maybe you're like very focused in, say, again, like easy example is like Olympiad, right? You're very focused in that and you excel at international level, right? That is impressive. Or it could be that you're very good at like doing like social work and you have started like an NGO or something, or you have done something amazing, right? So those kind of things. Or are you like a more of a well-rounded person? Are you like someone who is like very social, who goes to like a lot of different clubs in school, who started different clubs? So you're like a more balanced, well-rounded person. So think about it. What is your story, right? So there is that part. And once you have figured that out, kind of write it down and like kind of check out the application process, like Common App and all that. Then again, we'll talk about it more. And then get your counselors involved. So counselors could be anyone in your in your school. You're like, I think you need like one from science, one from humanities, and one like headmaster or like principal kind of deal, like who will be your counselor. In some school, if you're lucky in an English medium school, you probably have a counselor system. And I think we have a counselor from Edu University coming, right?
We have a counselor from Scholastica coming.
Yeah, Scholastica coming, yeah. So he can talk more about that process, but generally he will probably mention that what is helpful is like, you need to give them your profile. What do you want? Like, it's almost okay, obviously don't write your recommendation yourself. That like is a common sense, and like admission officer can like smell that from like see that from very far. They have written like they have read like 200,000 or I don't know how many applications, so they can figure out that if 2% wrote it.
আমাদের স্কুলে আমি গিয়েছিলাম, আমি 2020 এর জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করবো। টিচার আমাকে বলেছে যে আমি সে তার জিমেল অ্যাকাউন্ট মানে ইমেল আইডি পাসওয়ার্ড দিয়ে দিলে আমি যাতে আমারটা নিজে দেখি এবং আমি কোনোভাবেই
Right.
টিচারকে বোঝাতে পারি।
So I'll mention a bit more about this.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so
Yeah, sorry, you wanted to finish it first. Yeah. Do you want to finish it or?
এবং হচ্ছে কিছুদিন এরকম হচ্ছে গিয়ে যে আমি এক টিচারের কাছে পারিনি, তারপর আরেক টিচারের কাছে গিয়েছি, তারপর I had to মানে রিমাইন্ড হার অফ হোয়াট আই ওয়াজ। তো উনি তখন বলছিলেন যে আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে লিখে দিব, তারপরও তুমি লিখে দাও, মানে আচ্ছা আমি লিখে দিব কিন্তু তুমি লিখে দাও টাইপের অবস্থা ছিল। তো মানে আমি কিন্তু বিকারণে স্যার স্কুলে আমাদের স্কুলে এরকম হচ্ছে
Right. Do you?
Right.
Okay, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so I'll take that quickly. So, আমার জানা মতে বেশিরভাগ মানুষ এখানে যারা এসেছেন they are not from the English medium backgrounds to the like তারা যারা রেজিস্টার করেছে. So আমি লাবিব আমরা সবাই প্রথমে সেন্ট জোসেফে ছিলাম and we had to go through the similar process. So like there are multiple resources which shows you how to write a recommendation letter. So এখন one thing that we agree on is বেশিরভাগ cases like sometimes we've seen যে like we first initially write the recommendation draft, ওটা টিচারকে দেখাই and he proofreads it if he finds it fine, এবং তারপর he goes to the entire process, তার যদি কিছু add করতে হয় সেটা add করে, then finally he signs it. So what we are saying is writing the draft, the initial draft or what you want in the recommendation letter or what you think that you're capable of in the recommendation letter and showing it to the recommender is fine. But he has to make the final changes. He has to like rewrite it or rephrase it in his words, and he has to make certain additions to it. So তারপর he signs it. Because Bangladeshe one problem যেটা address করা খুবই essential is যে এই ট্রেনিংটা is not present in the national board teachers because তাদের এই ট্রেনিংটা কখনো ছিল না এবং তারা এই ব্যাপারটার ব্যাপারে অতটা জানেও না, like to be very honest with you, because এই রিলেটিভলি বাংলাদেশে মানে আমার দেখা মতে মুন ভাইয়াদেরকে দেখার থেকে শুরু করে we started applying. The Moon Bhaira started a bit before by seeing that. So it's a progressive way as we're going forward in the system. So definitely we will share out resources of writing recommendation letters and all the things that Bhaias and Labib and Zaud mentions and I mentioned. And then we'll send a holistic email to all of you tonight. Yeah.
Sounds good. We also shared that with the group.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that to a degree at least, which is like, so what is the best case? The best case is you write like just points, right? That I have done this thing. This is my profile. Please write like a good recommendation for me, right? And then your teacher writes themselves. So if that doesn't happen, the next step obviously is like maybe they're busy, they're lazy, or maybe they're like plain incapable, right? Like I'm like with respect to teachers, but I think I went to like school in Kushtia, so I have faced like this so much. So I agree with that. Like I would write like a draft to them and ask them to make changes, and they will make changes hopefully, and like then you'll be more original, right? So that's how I would address them. But anyway, to get back to the point, so there's that recommendation step, and then you apply. Then it's the application step, right? So you basically, I'll take questions in a little bit. Actually, let me finish that point. I'll take 1 minute. So basically, after that, what you do is like you write an essay. We'll talk in detail about it and profile how to fill up application and all that. And then you hopefully you have all the tests done and everything and you submit your application, right? And then there are some processes like few ever that we will probably talk about. Yeah. And all of those. So you can do that. And finally, after you have submitted application, congratulations. But after that, there's one more step left, which is like a financial aid. So I know like if we're like in Bangladesh, like we probably would not be, like many of us cannot afford like very, very expensive US education, right? Even for my family, like it was like, it would be impossible to afford. So basically like I thankfully was like very lucky to have gone like basically like a full ride to Harvard. So that was like super nice. So for that I had to like apply for like a financial aid, right? And we'll talk about that in detail. Like there are schools that are, some of them are like, there's like a concept of need blind, need aware and all that. So obviously, if your family can like afford some part of the thing, for some school it's better, but for some school it really doesn't matter. So we'll talk about more about that in our other speakers will talk about that. So yeah, so that's pretty much the whole process and the holistic overview of this holistic process. So we'll have other speaker who will talk about basically the rest of the topics. Yeah, now I'll open this for questions.
What are the students?
Oh, Kushtia. Well, yeah, I guess I actually didn't give like my background information. So yeah, so I guess I jumped in. Anyway, so my name is Tariq Adnan Moon. So I did my undergrad at Harvard, class of 2015. So I studied maths and computer science. And my school was Kushtia Jila School and Kushtia Government College. Yeah, I am. Oh yeah, really? Where? Okay. Which school? Pilot High School. Okay. Yeah, I do have friends from there. So cool. Yeah. So basically that, and then because I studied like computer science and maths, I started a company in Silicon Valley. So we do like data analytics for movie and TV studios. Yeah. So that's kind of my background. Right now, I am waiting from my previous startup, like we sponsored my green card, but didn't go through, so I'm kind of back in the Bangladesh for a little bit. So I started working on another company which does data security. It's a Singapore-based startup. And yeah, I've been working on it for the last 1 year from Bangladesh actually. So we have like a team of about 12 people in Bangladesh.
Did you apply from Kushtia or?
Yeah, I did. I did apply for Kushtia. All right, more questions? Okay, I'll take after.
আপনি কি ব্যাক অলিম্পিয়াড ছাড়া আর কোনো এক্সট্রা কারিকুলার অ্যাক্টিভিটিসের সাথে যুক্ত?
Yeah, I was. So Math Olympiad ছাড়া আমার যেটা ছিল, I was involved in debate. So I was pretty active in national debating. And other than that, my other involvement was kind of trying to make math education more popular in Bangladesh. So the way I did it was I had a math school in Kushtia, so which it used to like kind of like make the community more involved with this Olympiad and problem solving. But I also did like a lot of like basically resource for like and put it online through that website that I had for the math club, which apparently people still send me email and like people don't even know me like that I am Tariq Adnan, but like they're like, oh, I have seen your like Math Olympiad notes and stuff. So like it's very funny. Like I go to Math Olympiad, people are like, oh, you were that guy who wrote this like 10 years ago. So I did that, and I also started a Math Olympiad forum. So it's like a forum where people can go solve math problems. So quite like math related, but yeah.
এটা কি কলেজে শুরু করতে হবে ইউনিভার্সিটি আমরা অ্যাপ্লাই করে যেমন শুরু করতে হবে আমার কাছে একটা
Right.
ক্লাস ছিল
Right, so those are the things, that's why the recommendations are so important. Your teacher will be your champion, right? They'll write about you. They'll write that, oh, like I have this incredible student who not only is good at math or like not only good at like singing or something or like sports, they also inspire their local community to join their activity, right? They're passionate. So that's why the recommendations are so important. And also maybe you write your essay about it. For example, I wrote my essay about how I got to this like making math more popular among the local kids and how I started like this school, right? So there's that. Another question.
আমি এসএসসি সায়েন্স থেকে দিয়েছি, বাট এখন আমি হিউম্যানিটিজের একটা সাবজেক্টে পড়তে চাচ্ছি। অ্যাপ্লাই করলে হচ্ছে
What subject?
পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স আর হচ্ছে ম্যাথস অ্যান্ড ইংলিশ।
Right. I mean, it's not a problem at all.
Liberal arts.
কিন্তু আমি যার কাছে মানে এরকম সাবজেক্ট সুইচ করেছি এরকম কোনো এক্সাম্পল আমি পাইনি। নাম্বার 1, নাম্বার 2 হচ্ছে কি
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
সবাই হচ্ছে মানে সায়েন্স থেকে সায়েন্সে গেছে এবং তাদের এসে সায়েন্স কেন তাদের কাছে প্রিয় ছিল, 12 বছর কেন করেছে এটা ভ্যালিডেট করেছে বিষয়টা।
Right. I mean,
কিন্তু আমি এখন যদি সায়েন্স
Yeah.
থেকে হঠাৎ করে হিউম্যানিটিসে সুইচ করি আমার
let me ask this question, right? Why do you want to study politics?
না, এটা খুবই চিকি একটা কোশ্চেন আমাদের
But you need to be able to, yeah, but you need to answer the cheeky or not.
অবশ্যই যখন স্টুডেন্ট মুভমেন্ট হলো তখন আমি অ্যাক্টিভলি পার্টিসিপেট করেছিলাম, বাসা থেকে অনেক প্যারা
There you
দিয়েছিল,
go.
তারপরও আমি করেছিলাম।
That's your story.
যে আমার আসলে দরকার এখানে আর
That's your story. Right there. So it really doesn't matter what your background is, like what you can make, what initiative can you take. That's all we want to see, right? So you'll be like, my world like just shifted in a single day from right that event, right? So I think that is like a very powerful thing to write about. That now you care, now you're involved. That's it. I think that's enough.
আমি এসএসসি পরে ডিপ্লোমা ইন ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং চলে এসেছি এখন আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে হ্যাঁ হয়তো মেডিসিনে পড়লে ভালো হবে।
হ্যাঁ একটু জোরে বলো।
আমি মানে এসএসসি পরে ডিপ্লোমা ইন ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডে চলে এসেছি কিন্তু এখন আমার মনে হচ্ছে হয়তো মেডিসিন নিয়ে পড়লে মানে আমি আরেকটু সোশ্যাল ইমপ্যাক্টের নিয়ে কাজ করতে পারতাম, আরেকটু মানুষের সাথে এনগেজ হতে পারতাম। তো মানে এরপরে কি ওটাতে সুইচ করা যায়? কিন্তু আমাদের
You can switch also later, obviously, like in the US.
কিন্তু এখানে বিষয়টা হচ্ছে যে যখন আমি এসএটা লিখবো কিন্তু আমার এই 4 বছর একটা ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড ছিল, ফিজিক্স, কেমিস্ট্রি, কিন্তু এখানে বায়োলজি ছিল না, কিন্তু তারপরে বায়োলজি এসএসসিতে ছিল, তো তারপরে সুইচ করতে গেলে ওরা শুনবে না তুমি এখানে বায়োলজি ছিল, সেক্ষেত্রে কি আমার সাবজেক্ট লিস্ট হিসেবে বায়োলজি আর কেমিস্ট্রি দুটোই নিতে হবে?
I mean, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But you need to be able to show why. Like that's why I asked her that question, like why. I think everyone needs to ask like before you're like. So there's this thing, right? So let me like project, I guess, because people cannot hear from the background. So I think one thing in Bangladesh that is like problematic among us and also like our parents. I don't want to blame them, but even then it's like problematic. It's like we look for things that are like very like shiny, right? Like shiny object thing. Like that's what we look for. You're like, why do you want to go do do engineering? You're like so good at like painting. Their answer will be like, oh, like but that's what like the good kids do. That's shiny, right? And that's where people make money. Like, whereas maybe if you become a really good artist and sell your painting, someday one of your painting could be $1 million, right? Like, so you go figure. So there's that answer, right? So I think what we always need to ask, and at least like it goes beyond university admission. Like always ask why. Like that is so important. Like ask why do you want to take this? Why do you want to achieve it? Why do you want to go to US? Like why? Like why don't you just go to I don't know Singapore? Or why don't you go to I don't know like Kenya or something? Like why does it matter? So you need to ask that question.
I believe can here allow
There is no limit, but you need to be able to explain. That's the most important part. Like, I had a lot of friends like who did, for example, like some are like more trivial and easily explainable. Some are like some are things like they were like a military in like Singapore, so they had to do military service, so they took 2 years off. So that's like very easily explainable. Some were like they wanted to travel, so they went to travel the world, like they backpacked with like $1,000 or something. There was some kid who was like, I wanted to start a company, so that's why they took a gap year. So you just have to explain why. Again, like why is the most important thing?
How can we take preparation for successful presenter?
Successful?
Presenter.
Maybe we need like an EMK center person. I'm not good at it, clearly. Like I'm waiting for my visa interview at US Embassy for my green card, so I'm very bad at it. So I'm not the person to
We'll
answer.
talk about it.
Yeah, this guy can also tell you.
যদি কয়েকজন ফ্রেন্ড মিলে একটা অর্গানাইজেশনটা স্টার্ট করি এন্ড আমি যদি আমার ক্যাসেটে আমার নিজের কথা উল্লেখ না করে আমি গ্রুপের কথা উল্লেখ করি আমরা গ্রুপ কি করেছে এটাকে ইউনিভার্সিটি কিভাবে দিবে?
I mean, I think that's a nice thing that you are trying to credit other people, but you need to remember it's not an essay about your friends. It's an essay about yourself. So, yeah, there's that.
As students who apply from Bangladesh or countries like this to universities of America, so the US treats those students as international students.
Yes.
So what if I have a US passport?
Oh, then you just go apply from US. As a US
program,
it's the same process, but there's a mark where you tick whether you're international or like from Bangladesh. You absolutely tick on US. That will make your life so much easier. Because the admission rate for, I think in Ivy Leagues, like the admission rate for internationals are like less than 1%, I think, or some ridiculous numbers. Whereas like the overall admission rate is much higher, right? So if you are not from international background, you definitely have much better chance. So there's that. Yeah, I think my time is up, as they're saying. One last question. I'll take it.
When you are separate, then the opportunities are few, but now there are also opportunities are there. And science Olympiads and math Olympiads and lots of voluntary workshops. So what is the thing we are doing wrong for some
second.
আমরা এখন কোন জায়গা থেকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি মানে কনফিউজ বা নার্ভাস হয়ে যাচ্ছি আপনাদের মনে হয় যেখানে আমরা আসলে এলোমেলো হয়ে যাচ্ছি
Do you guys want to take that? Because I applied like a while ago, so I don't know, like,
Okay.
what are they missing?
What's the question?
So the question was like, so when I applied, we didn't have that many things. We had like a very big thing, maybe like one math Olympiad. Like now there are like a lot of Olympiads, but he's still asking like, what are they missing? Like, I don't know if they're missing anything.
Missing what?
Who's missing?
Kimi
আপনাদের সময় তো আসলে এত অপরচুনিটি ছিল না বা ইউনিভার্সিটি এত বেশি ছিল না
হ্যাঁ ইউনিভার্সিটি তো ছিল ইউনিভার্সিটিগুলো 300-400 বছর ধরে
ঠিক আছে এখন মনে করেন যে বা ইনফরমেশন ছিল না সেরকম
হ্যাঁ
যে আপনাদের সময় আপনারা তখন অ্যাপ্লাই করছেন
হ্যাঁ তখন তো এই ফেসবুক গ্রুপ ছিল না হ্যাঁ
লেকচার দেন না
Right.
যে কিভাবে অ্যাপ্লাই করতে হবে তো এটা আমাদের জন্য ইজি আছে তো মানে এখন আমরা আসলে অনেকে অ্যাপ্লাই করতে গিয়ে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় ভুল করে ফেলছি তো মানে আসলে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয়গুলো
So what are the common mistakes? Okay, yeah, so these guys will cover common mistakes. All right, thank you guys for coming again. Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah.